Start the party!
Hey guys, it's your boy Roy and welcome to God of War Pain Run. Let's do this. This is the first part of Athens, and in this segment we will be encountering a lot of more difficult enemies. In the previous chapter on the ship we mostly faced undead who have pretty much no no resistances to grabs, whereas these enemies, the Cursed Legionnaires, can't be grabbed until you weaken them enough. But thankfully, as you saw here, there's a pretty easy infinite. I don't know. Let me just back up and quickly describe this enemy and the infinite. Basically, what you can do is you can use ST and then jump up and grab them, and then you can just mash circle. The air grab has such an insane range. Like there will be times that you'll be attacking and pressing the button and you'll think like, okay, this is never gonna hit. It will. It absolutely will. Here, did you see that? That was like half a kilometer away. And if you damage them enough, sometimes you'll get this circle and then you can grab them and throw them. Their attacks are pretty simple. They have a big dash attack and they'll make a really strong sound effect, like sort of a suction, like woo, sound effect. And they have a get up attack, which means that if you knock them down and you stay close to them, they'll sort of do this twirly move when they get up. It doesn't have a lot of startup, so you really got to anticipate it. Here we're going to see our first Minotaur Grunt. Minotaur Grunts are extremely easy because you can launch them and then infinitely grab them, which I'll showcase here in a second as we watch this guy get absolutely decapitated. I like the way how Kratos just stands there casually, like oh, okay, his axe, don't really care. Just gonna watch these guys get absolutely smashed to pieces. And these guys, they have a couple of axe attacks, but they're really slow. Basically, what you want to do is just hold block, wait for them to attack like that. That's gonna be a triple slice. See, there's the last one's always delayed. Hold, triangle, and then just mash grab. It sort of depends on the enemy and how much HP they have. Sometimes you can do this infinite that I'm going to show you now, and then still do the execution, which gives you health orbs. And sometimes what will happen is, because the animation of the air throw on the Minotaur has two hurt boxes. When you grab him and swing him over you, and when he lands, what can happen is that when you swing him over you, I'm actually doing the motion with my hands right now, he will actually already get the circle, and then when he hits on the floor, he dies. You don't want that. Yeah, there you see it happen. And this time he actually survived, but I didn't really need the health orb, so that's okay. Up next we have our first Cyclops Enforcer. Now the Cyclops Enforcer is a foe that I had a lot of trouble with when I was starting out with the game. And once I knew how he worked, he was so ridiculously easy, I can't even imagine having difficulty with him. He has a big ball that he likes to use. And what you can just do is either roll to the side, but I'm not showcasing it here, but I will in later encounters. You can just stand to his normal arm, and he will never hit you. What he does have is one very specific attack, which is a slam dunk. And generally this move has a big startup, but sometimes, and I have no... Here you see it. Like he just does his slam. It's not that important. But he has a variant that he likes to use in which he does it immediately. And I'm not lying, like it's like a just frame. Like it's a couple of frames and then he hits you. It's impossible to react to, and I'm not sure if it... there you see, like, how do you react to that? That's really fast. Thankfully, he gives a lot of health orbs when he dies. And there's two here. So what I try to do is I try to keep the other one, when he appears, I try to keep him off camera. And keeping enemies off camera in this game is generally one of the best strategies out there. Due to the way the game is designed, enemies are not allowed to attack off camera. You can even put this to use, like for instance, if you see an enemy doing an attack, you quickly run away and you will hear them stop doing the attack because they're off screen. Now these guys can be pretty easily looped, as you see here. The SST or just the final finisher does a decent amount of damage and knockback, and that's really annoying. That can happen, that the quick time event doesn't really trigger, so you really gotta reposition yourself and just keep your distance for a while and then try and get back into it. Then it should work. See, that was the normal slam dunk, and that one just has decent tracking. It has a good start. You can see it coming, but sometimes that quickie, I don't know how to deal with that. Once it's in one-on-one, yeah, then it's easy pickings. I do have to say, like, Athens went a lot easier than I expected. There were a couple of snags, a couple of fights that gave me a bit of trouble, but compared to my no upgrade run, this was cake, and it was just inexperience on my no upgrade run. Here's a lot of platforming, don't really care, open the door, yada yada yada. We're gonna face the Medusa. Can I actually fall down? And the Medusa, she can be a bit difficult because you can't really seem to launch her. Sometimes it works and then you're not prepared for it and you won't be able to do the slam dunk. And other times she just doesn't launch into the air. What you can do is sort of get this pseudo infinite combo on her. If you manage to get an ST, so square triangle, she will launch, sort of, but not high enough for you to actually get your slam dunk, so the grab combo. But you can actually just mash square into a triangle finisher, which will just juggle her. I think I'll show it here. And after this fight, it's basically just an enhanced snake fight. You can just block all her moves, and when she does the stair, you just do square, square, triangle, because that will launch her. I think I will show it here. Like, you just try and be as defensive as possible. Then she does the stair, do that one. I tried to grab it, but it didn't work. Always hold block, because some of their attacks are ridiculous. That one is so fast. I always believe that every move should be at least 7 frames of startup. Oh, there you see me get the grab. Because that's about an average human reaction time, and that move is not 7 frames, neither is that one. So always hold block when she's not attacking, and when you're not attacking. Punishing her can be really difficult as well, as you can see, because she's very evasive. There we go. Trying to get some hits in. Come on. Yay. See, and there you see me try to do the harpoon attack. And it doesn't work, because she's not high enough. Now, the stair is an exception to the camera rule that I talked about. If you just run out of, off screen, they'll just continue doing it. But it's not too dangerous. Like, here you see me do the juggle. And then that one also juggles her again. So you can sort of try and pseudo-infinite her, if you can get her in that state. Sometimes I get a bit too cocky. I'm like, oh, I want to get that combo off of her. And I'm like, oh, it's not going to work. Sometimes I'm too late with the juggle. It's just an all-around boring fight for me. Look at that. Like, one hit and all my health is gone. Just because I didn't really hold block. Like every fraction of a second. Thankfully, the normal enemy variant of her is a lot easier because they don't have as much health as she does. You see me get a bit cocky and I try to air grab her. But yeah, generally Pain Run really fun, and I really recommend it to a lot of people. I'm finding that it's just this really old school gaming challenge. It's tough but fair. And it also showcases like the game's more bright spots, just about how how much it's based on efficiency, but also what I find to be really important is in these types of games is, and that's something you really notice. Metal Gear Rising had this problem too, is just how sort of flowchart the fights start to become in the higher difficulty settings, because you're so upgraded. Like you got all these special abilities, you got magic in this game, and in Metal Gear Rising you have like Ripper mode and the armor breaker, pincer blades, and every fight starts to become like this. Okay, I just use my most powerful attacks and everything just dies in a second. And on this type of run, you really are forced to learn again, like, okay, how does this enemy work? How do I punish him? How do I deal with him instead of just mash combination X? Yeah, I'm gonna skip this ahead because I didn't do my research. Apparently, during this fight, you really have to use the gaze, Medusa's gaze, to freeze a couple of enemies and kill them. And I was like, yeah, but it's a pain run. I'm not allowed to use magic. So I just started killing them for like hours. until I decide, okay, I'm just gonna stand over here, hold down the button, kill them all. It's really easy, especially because you have infinite magic during this part. You can just do square triangle for an easy kill. The gaze always has been one of the best moves, even though I never really use it. I don't know, it's what I don't like about the move is that you have to remain stationary while using it. I like to be on the move. I like to be on the offensive, and like I can imagine that it brings like happiness to people. Like they're like, okay, I'm holding it down, and you see the enemy getting closer, and he's slowly freezing. Like it's a cool effect, but it's not something I enjoy. Now these enemies are pretty slow. Just a general stock. What you can do is, if they're spawning, you can do a square triangle to instantly launch them out of the spawn, which can be a little fun tactic to abuse, and will come in great handy later on. There you see the get up twirl move, so be careful of that. I remember on my first playthrough I got so frustrated with myself because I was constantly getting hit by that. I was like, oh my god, just alright. Now with this part we just need to fire the... is it ballista? Ballistae? Whatever. Shoot it from over there, and later on we're going to use it to kill some minotaurs. But right now we're going to go outside and fight some more cursed legionnaires. At least I think that's what we're going to do. Yeah. Actually pretty... I remember doing this fight. And here you see me launching a spawn. And I was really happy with this engagement. Like there you have the overhead slash and the spin again. What I try to do is, first I'm just going to start using the infinite again, because it's just the safest way to deal with these guys. You can just do the ST or just a regular T, and then launch them and do the infinite. The slam dunk, or I think it's OH, the harpoon move, is really excellent here too, because you can just slam dunk them into each other. And sometimes you can use plume, which is square triangle, and then jump up and then grab them again. Yeah, there's one doing this spin move again. You really gotta be careful with the slam dunk though, because you don't have any type of iframes. You only have super armor during a small part of the animation, so you can get hit. And even in this grab infinite, there are a couple of frames where you can be hit as well. So if there's an enemy that's rushing you or has a big flurry of attacks like a satyr, be careful, because he might be able to hit you. I think we're gonna throw this guy off the cliff. Yeah. And it's just fun little things like that you can do. I really wish the game allowed more of that type of stuff, because a lot of the times the combat has like these invisible walls around it, and you're not really allowed to play with the environment. And it's like the game was trying to protect you, like, oh, he's an idiot, he can jump, he might be able to jump off, because this game was definitely geared towards the more casual player. But yeah, it's not something I really agree with. I would have preferred it if they just allowed us to, you know, throw enemies off cliffs. And sure, they don't have the risk of jumping off. I mean, you know, maybe make some pseudo-invisible walls that only work for us. There must have been a better way than just shut it all down in except very specific situations. It's just a shame they had to do it that way. Especially because it's just so much fun to just grab an enemy in midair, slam dunk him down into a pit. It's just great fun. It's something a lot of games are doing even more these days. I remember back in, I think it was Splinter Cell Blacklist, stealth game, to those who haven't played it. In previous games you could do, like, you could climb on pipes and whatever. And if you fell down and you didn't have enough health to survive the drop, Sam would still just drop down and he would die a horrible death. And in the later games, like Blacklist, Sam would just refuse to let go of the button, which sort of breaks immersion, in my opinion. Like, which is not really important, but it's still, it's just a weird little thing. Like, I want to jump down and see if I can, and the game just says no. So it really makes sort of this unexpectedness of the player. Yet, if there is a stealth kill possible down there, then suddenly he can do it, because he can survive, because that animation has iframes, which is, it's just weird gaming logic. Blacklist is one of those weird little games just to begin with, so yeah, weird, stupid little game. It's fun, but different. About these guys, just stay on the defensive. Like, I could have done an air infinite like 20 years ago, but I keep screwing up. Now this grab, you really got to learn how to nail it, because I fuck it up a lot. It's always 2 little attacks, and against the stronger variant you need free quick time events. Should be noted that if they get the execution, like if you're allowed to do the execution, they will immediately reset to a grounded position, so you can't air infinite them anymore. So you really got to be wary of that you don't whiff a grab. Alright, here you see, wait for a punish them hard, throw them down. I'm gonna keep him like that because I want to get the health orbs. And a big part of the pain run is to sort of manage your minotaurs. At least that's what it was for me. Like, I remember thinking like, okay, there's a minotaur fight over there, really got to pay my attention to that because they're free health orbs, so better not fuck that up. And I'm running around. A tactic I like to use, and a lot of people use, but still handy to mention, is I cancel my roll with a square press, and then cancel the square with another roll, which allows you to really roll like insanely fast, like faster than the game developers probably wanted you to actually do it. What I'm doing here is really dangerous. You have iframes during this, but if I screwed that up, I would have been frozen in midair, and I would have fallen to the ground and died instantly. That was also a good example. I could have continued the air combo on the Medusa, but instead I chose to block because I wasn't sure if I could be able to avoid said attack. So that's a little piece of strategy that God of War's got going on. Now after this we have just a small fight against a couple of Cursed Legionnaires, and then we have our first real rope battle. Rope battles were my least favorite part in the game, always have been, but they're a lot better now that I know how to deal with them. Basically what you want to do is watch a YouTube video or experiment like me, and note when the spawn happens, like what's the threshold. Like I think it's one of the thresholds here is when you pass that building, when you can see your first pillar appear of the building, like a couple of enemies will spawn. And what you do is you quickly back off and you go back to where we are right now, and then you just wait for them to reach you. Sometimes there's a guy coming from the other side, like the side you're going towards, like backing up. You quickly got to hit him once, grab him, and keep on going, because you want to get back here so you can just hit them a billion times before they die, because the rope fights are just insane. Like, you can get in some pretty hairy situations where it's a complete 50-50 chance if you're going to live or not. I've had situations that I was surrounded by both sides, and one of the guys would grab me, during which I have full iframes, but at the same time the other two were ganging up on me, and the animation of the grab ends, I kill the guy, and there I am, like hanging in the middle, and there's one guy on the left, one guy on the right. Who's gonna attack me first? I can only attack in one direction, and that's just, if there's no tell, you just have 50-50 chance that you hit the right guy, and if you choose wrong, then the other guy hits you, then you get a hit stun, and then the other guy hits you, and then you get a hit stun, and just keeps on going. Now immediately what you want to do when you jump on the rope is jump back off, because these two are going to spawn. Be really careful with them. You don't want to waste any health here, just in case you screw up. So here you see me like edging forward. Like this one guy, you can just do whatever you want with him. The kick thankfully has a really big hitbox. Like if I'm not using it right now, but I could hit that guy from that distance, so that's insane. Alright, here you see me kick him once, grab him, the other guy will miss, and then just walk back. And we're just gonna stand here, drop down, and do a square mashing. Now you want to be really careful here, and you see I'm using this little edge to sort of protect me. The reason I'm doing that is you can fall down. There's a hole in front of it, and I'm using the Medusa's gaze. I want to say Urlulus gaze, because that's the one from God of War 2. But I'm using the gaze to sort of cancel my attack motions. Sometimes I tend to forget to do it. But you want to be careful, because you don't want to fall off, because then you have to climb back up. It's not difficult, it's just annoying. Oh goddamn, fell down again. Their health doesn't reset or anything. And this is basically what we're gonna see. There, I almost fell down. This is basically what it is. So far, God of War 1 still really great. I really wish they allow you to skip cutscenes. I included them in this video because I wanted a complete run through of the game. But I'm still a bit annoyed that it doesn't really allow you to skip them, especially when I was stuck at Ares, the final boss. Every time I did an attempt, like I did like a couple attempts in a row, and then I decided like, oh, I'm done for today, I'm gonna try again tomorrow. And then I think like, oh crap, now it means I gotta watch the cutscene again, because it doesn't remember that you watched it. And it's stuff like that, like, I really believe that video games, I know it's an art form, and art has no rules, but it's also a game, and games do have rules. And I really believe there should be like this sort of commandment of things that video games should just have by default, like this rule book, like sort of like a seal of approval, like, okay, this game abides by these rules. Sure, a parody game can sort of ignore them, but being able to skip cutscenes, at least on subsequent playthroughs, is one of them, for me at least. Another thing that I also would like to see implemented is stuff like being able to skip walkie talkie segments in a subsequent playthrough. You can just skip it. I mean, I've already walked and talked this part. It's basically a cutscene in which I can sort of control my character. It's not really interesting to me. Then there's certain things about collectibles, unlockables, colorblind features, being able to... I'm not colorblind myself, I know people that are, and just how annoying it can be to play a game. I actually had a discussion about that today at work with a colleague. He plays a lot of Call of Duty, and I think there's a kill streak in that game where you summon a jet, and the jet has like has like a night vision going on, but the square that you fire with is red. And he says like, yeah, I never use that one because I can't really see what I'm aiming at because it's just invisible to me. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty stupid. But they have an option to turn that off. Same with customizable controls. Like, that's the one thing that I really miss in a lot of games. Like, plenty of times I'll be playing, I think those people that saw me play my no upgrade run for God of War or see me play Devil May Cry, the first one on this channel, know that I sometimes press the wrong buttons because I'm used to other versions of the game, or that I've been playing a different game that has a different button layout, and sometimes it's just one button and you're like, why can't I change that button? I really wanted to give Vanquish a shot on the Xbox 360 because I also have that version. I was like, oh, I might as well complete that one too. But it was impossible for me to actually get the authentic PlayStation setup. Oh, here you see me get that 50-50 chance. Get that PlayStation setup without changing some other controls as well. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not gonna readapt like 7 years of experience just to play it on this one version. So fuck that. And there's a lot of other stuff like how collectibles are used, achievements, and graphical features and whatnot. Games seem to sometimes really be taking steps back in a lot of regards. I remember there's a really cool little video from Mega64. I don't know if guys here that are watching know Mega64. Their YouTube channel, really funny. I think they started off on game trailers. Rest in peace, game trailers. They make these little spoofs on video game and video game journalism. And one of them was like back in the 90s, you see them like reading new E3 rumors. And it's like, oh, we now have memory cards, and we got online games and stuff. And they're like really excited, like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And then it fast forwards to them again in 2015 or something. And they're like, oh, I got the new E3 rumors. Oh, motion controls, this, DRM, that, protection software, this, can't use this, that. And they're like, oh yes, video games, fun. So that's a pretty funny realization. These guys, you can just stand here and constantly fire at the ballista. This would have been a fun encounter if it, like if they were closer or if they moved faster, like they had the ability to run. Instead, it's just hammering this button. There's no tension or whatever. I think I could just stand there for a minute and the guy would never reach me. It's a bit lazy, I'm sorry. Sorry to say. So yeah, that's that opinion. Well, Mega 64 is really funny. I remember watching it as, I want to say a kid, but that's a bit of an overstatement. I'm not really a kid. I wasn't really a kid back then. I think I was like, what, 20? 21? Yeah, now we just have a couple of cutscenes and then it is finito. Again, this is one of those segments where I'm like, wow, they did this on a PlayStation 2? Because you have to consider, I played this game when the PS3 was, I don't know, I think I already had a PS4 when I bought my PS2. And when I first played this game and I reached this part, this was the really first part where, because the Hydra impressed me. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool, especially for this time frame. And then I came to the next part where you see Ares just laying the smackdown on Athena, on Athens, and the army. Here you see him. Like, this is pretty epic, especially for a PlayStation 2 game, pretty in the middle of its lifespan. And the PlayStation 2, you have to consider, was already the weakest console on the market when it came to just technicality, load times and stuff. It was really, it was behind, like, obviously, because the Xbox and GameCube came a lot later. It had that graphical disadvantage. So being able to pull this off, that's nothing short of impressive. It just looks really slick. I'm not really sure what frame rate this game actually runs at. Is it 50, 60, 30? Not really sure. Yeah, that just have this guy present in the background is really cool. Really appreciate that. Alright guys, this has been Athens, the first part. Up next is the second part of Athens. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time.
Hey, do your job.